before we get to current events put into motion in 1947 and 48 and before then, I wanted to begin by asking about something I haven't heard much on in today's narratives and conversations, but that seems like it might be relevant to our discussion, and it's also just very interesting. So, historically, Jews have often been stereotyped as physically weak and brainy and effeminate. And this makes me wonder, because I read about it first in one of your books, and what was Muscular Judaism and the New Jew movement?
Okay. The word effeminate, I don't remember ever seeing, but certainly weak and if you like, brainy, as you put it. That certainly was one of the stereotypes. And when Zionism emerged in the 1880s, 1890s, and people began to move from Eastern Europe in small numbers to Palestine, Zionists, one of their aims was to convert the Jew himself, to change the Jew, the nature of the Jew, certainly away from the stereotype, and to make him muscular. Muscular being that he would eventually train as a soldier, that he would work the earth and grow things rather than be a middleman, to make it turn him into a normal human being rather than some sort of sidelined merchant, and as was said, weakling or whatever, who didn't defend himself. So that was one of the aims of Zionism, or at least a mainstream in Zionism.
And so one of the major narratives over the past 6 months has been that the Israeli military and intelligence community was humiliated by the October 7th attack. That's something I know we don't have to talk about him in particular. I actually just saw that you had this big debate with Lex Friedman's show with Norman Finkelstein. But one of the things that he mentions was that this was this huge humiliation and upset for the military community. And I'm wondering if you see that at all as connecting to this legacy of muscular Judaism.
I don't think it connects. I think it's per se. In other words, I think that the IDF was definitely, and the intelligence community were definitely humiliated by both the surprise attack and by the IDF's terrible, weak response on the day itself and maybe even the day following. It took them a long time to get organized for something which they should have been able to take care of in a few hours. But they simply didn't understand what was going on. And then somehow down the chains of command, it didn't work for about a day until things started rolling. So definitely this was humiliation. And I would assume personally that some of the officers in charge felt personally humiliated. And maybe this is part, this also had an effect on their reaction to what happened. In other words, once they began the assault, first an air assault and then the ground assault on Gaza, I'm sure this idea of wiping out the humiliation, at least in the subconscious, also played a part.
But there isn't any, you don't see any direct connection between muscular Judaism and the New Jew.
No, and the whole point of muscular Judaism, as I said, was in the 1880s, 1890s. I think Israel's the success of the Zionist venture enterprise in settling the land and in producing very good agriculture, much better, of course, than the Arabs. They didn't know how to work the land properly. The Jews did. They turned the land into a land of milk and honey over the 20s, 30s, 40s, and the military successes in 48 and subsequently wiped out this idea of the non-muscular Jew. The problem now, if you like, at least in a connection to the way Israel, the world is seen, that is, the world sees Israel, is to tone down the idea of muscular Judaism. So that didn't come into play, I don't think. But I think the idea of personal humiliation may have at least subconsciously entered into what happened subsequent to the 7th of October.